really focus or really call people's attention to the fact that if you listen, it will actually help you learn faster,
Yeah,
you know?
true.
And even if you don't learn the grammar completely right, you know, from the beginning, before you start trying to speak, that's not always a bad thing, you know, because, and that's exactly what you are saying. Adults are very self-conscious. So they're like, oh my God, no, I can't speak because I'm going to say something wrong. And it's going to be like, oh, it's so awkward. But in fact, you know, like if we think about children and how do they learn, you know, they
So
learn
true.
by doing, they learn, I don't know. They learn because they interact, and they really need to learn it. They really need to interact. They don't want to be in a corner without speaking to anyone. I'm even speaking about, it can be the first language we learn by listening, but also second languages. Imagine children that come to Portugal from other countries. We see it many times. They're much faster, supposedly, learning than their parents. And people attribute this for, you know, brain plasticity is not as good when you're an adult as when you were a child. But in fact, you know, there is no evidence that there is like an age after which you are not capable of learning a language anymore. Normally, there was even a study saying that it's after 18, 20 that you see a little bit of a drop in the way that a person learns a language. But in fact, they are now attributing it not to brain plasticity, but much more to the motivation that you have, the time you have to be exposed to the language, and so on. And I think actually making mistakes is what allows children to learn, and that will also be what allows us adults to learn a language. So it's not so bad to make a mistake. That's how you learn. It's with everything in life and with languages, it's exactly the same. Plus, here in Portugal, I don't know if you have had this experience yourself, Claire, but people really enjoy it, really like it. If a foreigner tries to, you know, say something in our language, we find it kind of endearing. Sometimes it can come across as we're mocking people, but that's not the intention at all. It's more like, oh my God, you're so cute, you know, like your accent is so sweet.
It's done in a really nice manner, isn't it? It's never, I don't remember one occasion ever that I felt anybody actually laughed at me. I would laugh at me sometimes and they would laugh along, but it was always done in the kindest way. It was never you're stupid and, you know, you shouldn't have tried. It was never like that. I never felt that way at all. I once called a osteopath, a chiropractor man, to see if he, instead of asking if he treated children, I asked him if he treated mushrooms, which he thought was absolutely the most hilarious. He was like, what are you talking about? You know, like, did you mean to call me? And I said, yeah, for like my sons. And then he went, oh, children. And you can just see, you know, like in my head, I was so, must say the right thing, must say the right words, you know, and it was on the phone and I was really like panicking and we hadn't been there very long. And I just knew the words began with C and I was like, that's the one, that's where I'm going.
You said cogumelos instead of crianças.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. But maybe, even if you take it from your experience, maybe you never, ever again forgot.
No, I never did. I never, ever forgot the two.
Exactly. Cogumelos, you see?
Exactly, yeah.
Why? Do you know why? Because you've created an emotional attachment to to those words, because it kind of provoked something in you.
Yeah.
And you thought, oh, wow, I can never do this mistake or make this mistake.
Well, you create this ridiculous picture in your mind of a mushroom being treated on a bench, you know, and I never could forget the two words ever again. But again, he didn't laugh at me. He didn't make me feel embarrassed. You know, it was funny because it, you know, let's be honest, it is funny. But had I not found it funny and instead had been embarrassed, he would not have made me feel bad about that for sure.
Of course.
But I guess this is the thing, like you say, with children, isn't it? Their innocence and their ability to accept that they don't know something is what helps them. They don't question it. They don't ask, why is it that way? Why is it this way? They just accept that's how it's said and that's how it works. And I guess they don't overcomplicate things that way, you know?
No, we just overcomplicate everything when we are adults. And but we should really learn with children in this sense, because they are really great. And this with the listening, it's like when you're really like a child, this is how you learn. You start like, you listen, because first you can't even speak, right? And then you just hear, you listen, and then eventually you go on to try your first sounds, and then your first words. And it takes a while, but after a while you are actually making your first sentences and you're speaking, basically. And obviously I know that second language learners don't have as much time normally, or they do, but this is another thing from this MIT study that I talked about, because in fact, adults even have an advantage over children, because we already have our first language, and or even other languages, and we are more capable of making generalizations and of understanding concepts and all of that. And in fact, there are adults that are learning a language in 2 years, so that's even faster than when they were children and they were
so true. That is so true. You're absolutely right.